crazy, like a Dragon Warlock or a Reno Warlock again, and it looks like Greensheep might be bringing either a Freeze Mage or a Tempo Mage, which I think might work quite well against the decks of Mysterious.
Well, I'm going to go against you guys on this one. I think Mysterious could take this one, and I would wager it could go even as far as a 3-1 in favour of Mysterious. You know, this guy, like you rightly said earlier, he can't really be underestimated, and we've seen him underestimated many times before in the Premiership. Last season, he made it all the way to playoffs and basically flew under the radar the entire time. And so far, I mean, we keep on talking about how there's these top 3 players, but it always feels like Mysterious is talked about less. And he just somehow, despite his score, despite his performances, flies under that radar. And I definitely think he is going to be a huge factor in this series.
We will sort this overlay out for you guys as soon as we can, as we obviously can't quite see what's going on. We're just going to get that quickly. There we go. Ah, there we go. Thumbs up, ESL UK production. We have actually got what seems to be another Beast Druid appearance here. Yeah. For Greensheep.
Enchanted Raven coming out as well.
I'm happy that he's brought Beast Druid as well, because, I mean, if you think about it, the nerfs that happened, okay, so Rockbiter was... It was really hard to play against a Rockbiter and Aggro Shaman, because when you are Beast Druid, just because if they kill that early game, you don't build that board presence, you really do struggle. So I like that Greensheep's still sticking with this Beast Druid, and it's definitely going to work against those slower decks. I'm not sure how it's going to favour against this Hunter, especially with that Leok roll.
So 66% of the time he was going to get an outcome that was favourable. Leok was actually the best case scenario for him. But Greensheep won't be too disheartened. He had the Innovate in hand and can go straight into a Stranglethorn Tiger there. That'll get that stealth. Early threat posed on board, and actually not much for Mysterious to respond with it with.
Yeah, exactly. His hand's a little bit clunky. He probably just plays both 1-drops rather than favouring the hero power just to get as much board presence as possible. I wouldn't be adverse to... Ooh. I still think Wrathing for 1 here.
I like Wrathing for 1, because then you can also clean up 1, or at least the Divine Shield with your hero power if you absolutely want to, or you can just throw down Enchanted Raven. I think cleaning up the shield with your hero power is probably the correct decision. You also, maybe that you took the 1 damage to the Tiger, think about playing the Enchanted... I think the only reason he didn't use the hero power is because he took that extra damage to the Tiger, potentially.
Why would taking the extra damage to the Tiger stop you wanting to remove the Divine Shield? That's not an accurate... I'm not saying that aggressively, just I'm curious.
Why, goddammit?
It just because it becomes slightly more favourable for a trade for Mysterious to then use something like Unleash the Hounds if he absolutely wants to, like he had in hand, or Houndmaster, although there wasn't anything on board for it, but you know what I mean. Okay. It just makes it slightly easier to trade into. Although I think I'm talking rubbish half the time, so don't worry about me.
Fair enough.
You go face with this, though, I'm sure.
He's going to be able to get a nice solid 7 damage down, which is going to be nice for him. And actually, he's got a fairly decent hand going on for himself as well. He's got a good board set up with 2 Savage Combatants available for this next turn. However, Unleash the Hounds is going to be a very nice response for Mysterious.
Yeah, I like the Living Roots to summon the 1/1s, especially because he has Savage Combatant plus hero power next turn, but he did need to probably consider Unleash Hounds as a possibility, because now he's going to be able to clear up this board quite nicely. And you do see Mysterious still is running that Call of the Wild, despite it changing from 8 mana to 9 mana. I'm not entirely surprised. I mean, still for 9 mana is pretty strong.
Yeah, most people will be. But we can see next turn Greensheep can refill his hand quite effectively with Curator. Another thing that it was weak to if he traded into was if another Leok came out, for instance. You know, if it was the 5/3, then obviously the Divine Shield would have made it a free trade for him in that sense. Kill Command's pretty solid off the top here, but you really want to think about dropping High Main, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's valuing the board clear a little bit more on this one.
I guess there's not much he'll have between turns 7 and 9 anyway, given that the Call of the Wild, you've got to fill an extra turn now. I reckon Curator's fine here, though. You just saw a Kill Command.
Yeah.
So what do you draw with Curator and Azure Drake plus any beast? I would assume there are no Murlocs, unless he's running Sir Finley still.
Could be running Sir Finley still, but he doesn't want to play the Curator yet. He wants to try and get some couple of extra board.
Perhaps he's worried about being punished by another Kill Command on that Curator, which wouldn't be great. And basically what Mysterious has to do is just try and keep as much board control as possible, because against the Beast Druid, if you do start to lose that board control, you do really struggle to get back into the game. But Swipe here, I mean...
What you can do is you can hero power first, and then trade your Savage Combatant in, proc the Divine Shield, or take out a 2-2, which either or kind of gives you the same result. Probably better to take out one of the 2-2s and then swipe.
I think you might be tempted just to drop the Curator here,
I
trade into the high main, and then use... Enchanted Raven actually is really good because then that curves well with his mana. He's going to go for a value trade here.
I think he doesn't trade into the high main, obviously, because then high main will trade in naturally into the 4-6, and then it opens itself up to a swipe that's more effective. And plus, next turn he has Azure Drake swipe as well.
Oh, look at this. Turn 8, 2 Call of the Wilds. Can't play with him anymore.
Yeah, I know, right?
And how horrible does that look? And that could be the game changer. That could lose him the game just because of how clunky it is. But I know next turn he has got Call of the Wild followed by Call of the Wild, which is always very disgusting.
So this is an interesting turn, because this is probably going to be trade your 2-4 into the 6-1, trade your 5-4 into the 1-1, and then Azure Drake swipe to just get a full clean of the board. You swipe face.
Yeah, you swipe face every time.
Because you just want to get a full clean on the board going into turn on the wild turn, Call of the Wild turn.
I mean, there's also 10 damage on board right now. Sorry, 12 damage on board right now if you include swiping the face coming out from Greensheep. He's getting awfully close to lethal at this stage in the game.
Yeah, he's like 4 off. If he had another swipe, he'd have lethal. No, he'd need 10 mana for that, sorry. So if he was at 10 mana and had 2 swipes, he'd have lethal. But I think you can't risk leaving this board healthy going into turn 9, which is obviously the new Call of the Wild turn.
Well, he's considering playing the Druid of the Saber. I've got to say, the issue with playing the Swipe as well is you activate immediately all those death rattles, but you know, I guess he's making the decision that he needs to push face right now, and he's not going to make those trades, not going to proc the death rattles, and it sets him up for lethal next turn. However, we know Call of the Wild will be available. There's going to be a lot of damage coming out.
It's a huge amount of damage. Maybe he thinks that he's got one extra Azure Drake in hand, so Mysterious will make the trades for him, so the death rattles will get procced naturally.
Yeah, well, here we go. The trades will come on through. The Mysterious, he's going to be very happy to finally have procced those death rattles, but we know for a fact that those 2 HP minions will not be long for this world as the Azure Drake comes out. So with swipe available in hand. Yeah,
that was a better play than I think from Greensheep, the one that I suggested previously, is that these trades happen naturally. So he was basically saying, I know that even if Call of the Wild comes through, Mysterious will probably trade those death rattles in for me, so then I can just have a nice Azure Drake swipe turn the follow-up, because I had another, only because he had another Azure Drake in hand. I don't think he would have done it if he didn't have that extra Azure Drake.
So double Call of the Wild still doing as much damage as it used to, despite being on turn 9, and that's actually quite helpful just to kind of get rid.
Yeah.
Fandral Druid of the Claw seems pretty good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is the issue for Mysterious, right? Is he's managed to gain control of the board, but he's on so little HP at this stage, and only has those 2 cards in hand. He's got no more Call of the Wilds for the rest of the game. Like, Mysterious, it feels like, has kind of run out of steam a bit. However, Greensheep still has a fair bit to play with.
I was about to say, I kind of like Stranglethorn. I would have maybe suggested a Druid of the Claw, just to kind of get rid of that taunt first, but I suppose you can still use it next turn in conjunction with Fandral, and then you still get the value out of it. But just having that Stealth Tiger on board, so you guarantee that lethal if you can clear the board off.
Double taunt does hurt him in this particular scenario, though.
I like that he went for the 5-2 Tiger instead of the Firehawk there, just because it means it's basically like, you know, trade in with one of your minions or risk going to it. You know for a fact he cannot use that Eagle Horn Bow. However, Mysterious is not afraid to just push face right now.
So now you found your new Druid of the Claw.
Yeah.
It survives.
I think you need
clear
to.
Both.
But then you've put yourself in a situation...
But your taunt's still available.
Yeah, your taunt's still...
It survives.
You get a 4-2.
So I don't think there's anything that can win the game for Mysterious here now.
Well, Handmaster certainly doesn't win in the game.
Yeah, Handmaster doesn't really help with anything at this point, and that is going to be plenty of damage on board for Greensheep. So, first one in this series going the way of Greensheep. So, fantastic stuff from him to take the lead in this one. And we'll see whether he's going to be able to actually turn that into more, whether he can start to snowball this one. And already, we immediately see these nerfs coming into effect. I think had those Call of the Wilds been just a singular turn earlier, I mean, he had so much on board the turn before. On that turn 8, he had like 3, 4 other minions available on board, and then turn 9, he had only the Savannah Highmane, and I can't remember what the other minion was, Kindly Grandmother, I think. So that dramatic difference of that one turn honestly made the difference.
It really did. I mean, it still came close. I mean, turn 9 and turn 10, 2 Call of the Wilds is still pretty deadly, but the fact that Greensheep kind of played it patiently, he waited, he saved his Azure Drake, he saved his swipe, because he knew that he might have to remove those minions, because usually it's pretty likely they're going to have Call of the Wild by turn 9 especially. So well played from Greensheep. I'm glad he brought the Beast Druid again, and he's 1-0 up, and now he's going to start feeling confident, and we see he is going to go for this mid-range Shaman, and he is still playing Scoundrel is still playing that Tuskar Totemic.
I think Tuskar Totemic in mid-range is fine, because summoning a totem with a 3-2, it synergizes so much with, eventually down the line, Thunder Bluff. It synergizes with Thing from Below that you can see there. Going to see an immediate quick shot by Mysterious, which lends itself to Greensheep realizing that next turn there will be some form of charge, which the only one he's seen is Argent Horse Rider, so he knows this is coming.
Primal Fusion as well.
He can't use that now because it just dies to Argent Horse Rider anyway, but...
Don't worry, loves. The cavalry's here.
Argent Horse Rider does come out in the end to get that nice free trade for himself, and Mysterious once again with control of the board. Tuskar Totemic still in the deck despite the nerf here, but not going to opt to go for that one on turn 3.
It's too weak to the Argent Horse Rider on board. It's such a free trade for a 3-2 into a 2-1. You don't want to make that kind of trade when you can put down 2 1-1s that trade nicely into the Argent Horse Rider. Yeah, and with respect to Tuskar Totemic, it is still a fine card when you have synergy with the totem summoning. Otherwise, no point. Keep having it in the deck.
So Barnes does come out from Mysterious, and he finds N'Zoth. So we know it's an N'Zoth.
So we know it's
deck.
an N'Zoth Hunter, and now Greensheep knows it's an N'Zoth Hunter.
And that, did you see Mysterious's expression right there? It's very rare that we get any kind of tells out of Mysterious, but right there he's like, for goodness sake, I'd made it through, nobody knew that it was N'Zoth at this stage, and then Barnes goes and gives it away.
It's probably one of maybe 3 or 4 cards in your deck that you don't really want to pull from Barnes as well, that you don't get the value from a Death Rattle. So it is unfortunate for Mysterious. I mean, last week he brought the kind of mid-range Secret Hunter, and it wasn't that successful, so I am glad that he's kind of moved away, because I do think N'Zoth Hunter is fantastic at the moment, just because the games do typically go on quite a while now, so it does help in that end game.
The issue that we've had with Secret Hunter is a lot of their win conditions lied around their ability to generate charges on Eagle Horn Bow, so you consistently had this 3 damage weapon that was chunking into face. And then people started saying, oh wait, there's a thing called Harrison Jones. We started seeing Harrison Jones make a resurgence, and that kind of put a spanner in the works for a lot of people wanting to play that Secret Hunter. This is an interesting turn.
I like Flame Tongue Totem into Thing from Below, but he's just going to hero power up. I guess you don't need the Flame Tongue Totem.
You can use Primal Fusion if you absolutely want to as well.
Yeah, that actually makes this 3-1 pretty beefy with a Divine Shield as well. That's actually a pretty terrifying minion on the board, and I almost question whether he trades, whether you could actually make a play for just going face with that 10 damage and just force your opponent to answer, but does want to go for the trades in the end and just take complete control.
Great decision from Greensheep. Perfect ordering as well, making sure that he kills off the Fiery Bat first, just in case that 1 damage does hit the minion that he knows is going to full well trade into. So, I mean, great ordering from him, and it's what you'd expect to see from a top-tier player like Greensheep, to be honest.
What do you think about this, Highmane? Just ignore it? Because you can just slam, like, multiple Thing from Belows here for, like, 0 mana if you absolutely want to.
Definitely. I don't think you need to deal with it right now. It's going to deal with itself, essentially. I mean, Houndmaster...
And you can see that from Mysterious. He knows that this is not a situation that is going to be particularly favourable for him.
You say you don't have to deal with this right now. I'm not sure he ever has to deal with this without the Houndmaster coming out, because this is a terrifying board from Greensheep, and he's looking at lethal next turn if with the Lightning Bolt on top of everything.
He can actually clear the 2 Thing from Belows quite easily as well with the Kill Command and obviously the Savannah Highmane. So those 2 big beefy 7/5s, they will go away fairly readily. And actually this is going to pose a bit of an issue now for Greensheep, but we know that he's got a 50-50 chance to have some serious board clearing prowess. And oh my word, right off the top, Thunderbluff Valiant comes to town, and if he rolls a spell power totem, that's even better.
I think if it's Spell Power Totem, he wins. If it might be 1 off. 5, 7, 10, 12, 16, 19, 2 off. Oh, there's a taunt as well.
I was going to say, yeah, he has to trade first. So.
Migo face.
Migo face.
Me ignore taunt.
Unfortunately for him, his own. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. So Mysterious just knew that there was probably very little chance for him to make it. I mean, he knew that Hyena was going to get cleared. And then there was only a Houndmaster and an Argent Squire in hand. Is like, oh, what do I draw that's really going to have an impact following this? And I think, yeah, wow, Greensheep just... I mean, the guy has suddenly found his groove with these aggro, mid-rangey orientated decks.
How about that Shaman nerf, eh?
Yeah, how about that Shaman
well.
nerf, boys?
Probably should have banned it, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I think you might be right on that one. And maybe the players later on tonight looking at this series might think to themselves, I wasn't going to ban Shaman, but after that performance, maybe it's something that's worth considering.
I wonder if he's running Bloodlust in that Shaman deck as well. I know a few
Some
people are.
do, yeah.
And
Wouldn't be surprised.
it just adds to that extra kind of oomph and gives the deck that kind of lethal finisher.
Yep.
And especially as a hunter, and I think Mysterious knew, I don't know if he was on turn 7 or turn 8, but you can't even think, alright, I'm going to draw Call of the Wild, it gets me back in the game. You can't, because it's turn 9 now. It's just... So, quite an obvious conceit
it's
for
actually
Mysterious
Freeze
there.
Mage as well.
See, this is what I said. I didn't know whether Greensheep was going to bring Freeze or Tempo, but Freeze does make sense. Freeze does still work pretty well. I know everyone's going to be like, lol, Freeze in 2016.
Lol, lol, lol.
But it does work well, especially this variant, which was made famous by laughing. It just really counters Shaman, to be honest. It can absolutely destroy a Shaman.
And, you know, pending no fancy Feral Rage moves here, probably has a slight favour against the Druid, as long as you're able to consistently freeze and clear board as much as possible. The only issue I see against Druids now is they actually have those extra big threats in the form of the Arcane Giants, which I think throw a fairly huge spanner in the works. But much to the joy of Greensheep, it's not turn 2 Wild Growth here.
Well, last week Mysterious did just bring the token Druid. It wasn't even Malygos. Obviously, we did see Malygos now in the opening hand, so he has gone towards, which I would say perhaps the token Druid may have done a little bit better, just trying to get that board presence,
more and more board presence
against the Freeze Mage. But, you know, you can't really predict these things, obviously. These guys just have to go with what they're confident with, and obviously Malygos Druid is still very strong. We'll see whether he's playing Yogg in it. I doubt it very much, but some players still are.
Yeah, some people, I mean, I've seen Yogg do awful and great things still, but he's just a little bit more awful than he was previously. But I like the Healing Touch pickup here for Mysterious. I think he's made it very quick cotton on that this is actually Freeze Mage, as if a ping followed by an Acolyte of Pain turn 3 wouldn't tell you any more. And he's now got 2 8 heals in hand, so that's extra 16 worth of healing that he's got following a potential Alexstrasza.
So I know a Freeze Mage kind of dipped out for the competitive scene a little bit. We did actually see it last season in our finals, as a few players brought Freeze Mage, and the main difference now is that evolved Kobold, which can really help just generate that extra damage, especially if you can combine it with the Emperor. So he's got a few of those important spells in his hand now. He's got the Ice Lance, he's got the Fireball, which would you be thinking about playing Emperor turn 6?
Actually, to be honest, in this particular matchup, I might be more tempted to try and search for as close to a one-turn combo as I can get. And it depends if he runs Torches. If he doesn't run Torches, it's a lot harder to make it happen. And I think if this is giving us indication of anything, he's more favouring the fact that a double 0-mana Ice Lance with a 1-mana Blood Mage Thalnos could be more effective.
Yeah, the second Ice Lance coming off the top definitely would have helped that decision of playing Emperor. But also was the only body he could put on to kind of combat this Ancient of War that is on board.
He needs some Doomsayers or something soon. He's only got a couple of forms of freeze in the hand. You don't really want to be using your Blizzard onto a very low threat board. I mean, a 5/5 is a bit of a threat, but you've got that Ice Barrier in play. You can afford to soak up a couple of turns of damage before you start to worry. That, however, is something you might worry about.
Yeah, especially as we can see double Feral Rage and a Healing Touch in the hands of Mysterious. So
wow, that's 24 healing.
Yeah, that's a little bit scary, and I think that's what Greensheep will be concerned about. And perhaps this isn't really one of the matchups he was expecting to win, but you're still going to obviously try your hardest to win it. It's going to be a tough one, and I think he needs to get all that damage as quick as possible, and I like this. Using that Blood Mage Thalnos just to get the extra damage for Flame Strike.
Yeah, nice answer comes out from Greensheep there. We'll be able to take control of the board, and more importantly, eliminates the Thalnos that definitely would have got this completely out of his control had Mysterious managed to get a couple of turns off. But Arcane Giant, I mean, not the greatest Arcane Giant turn we've ever seen, 7 mana for it, so not the best value. However, it's still an 8/8 body on board.
It is. It's still definitely a threat and still something that can put damage in. And Greensheep was thinking about using the Blizzard there. He is going to. I wonder if he's going to use it in conjunction with Doomsayer.
That'd be an interesting choice.
Why not Frost Nova instead of the Blizzard?
I mean, Frost Nova's more accessible, right? I mean, how many 2 damage minions are you particularly worried about, or comboing with anything else? I guess when you have the mana to use Blizzard and you're not thinking about using it more frequently, then it makes a little bit of sense. Now that the question for Mysterious is, does he hasn't really got anything here to clear it, but does the Feral Rage...
Feral Rages, yeah.
Yeah, do you just Feral Rage, double Feral Rage, thinking that you need to have more time to burst down, or do you save that for the healing, which could become more important later on?
I'd be half tempted just to double Feral Rage.
Would you?
Just why not? I mean, get that 16. I mean, okay, so
That's
later on
you
could wait to use it. Well, it's still armor, isn't it? So it doesn't really matter if you use it now or later.
Okay, you take this out and you think, oh, maybe this 8 mana, maybe this 8/6 wins me the game. The other method of thought is if he Alex Strazes me, then I basically just outright win the game if I just play 24 worth of healing in one turn.
Well, Greensheep once again pretty much gonna hero power and pass. Does cycle one of those roaring torches as well, and we'll be able to get a loot order down. So pretty much like your standard early game freeze mage turn right there. Start to cycle some cards, get a loot hoarder out, and just once again ping face.
Cycle's been fairly low from Greensheep this game thus far, which will be starting to worry him because he doesn't really have too many answers. He's just got a lot of stool, which obviously is what most of what freeze mage wants. But it would really be happy to see Alex Strazes sometime soon. Some cycle comes through more. He definitely would like to see some more damage.
Another reason why Mysterious might be keeping that Feral Rage is just because with Fandral as well, you can get the attack and the armor, and you might need that later on. There is the Alex Straza.
So we'll see that probably soon, especially if we draw a Frostbolt in the next turn.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that potentially next turn here. Just because as well it forces an answer out of his opponent. And it'll... I think at that point, if Alex Straza comes down, you'll immediately see the answer of these Feral Rages, of the Healing Touch, just to make sure Mysterious doesn't get too low and actually get himself in serious trouble.
Are you counting...
Yeah, I think he does have 15 damage in hand already after that Alex Straza, because Cabal gives +2 spell damage, so your Fireball's 8. You use 1 Ice Lance just to freeze, then your next Ice Lance becomes 6, and then you hero power for the last 1 damage.
He's going to go for the 8 armor straight up, so that's the 8 armor already put down. Ice Block comes through. Isn't that much else in terms of damage to board here for Greensheep.
He may even considering Frost Nova, Acolyte, Ice Block.
I think that's fine. I wouldn't want to use Alex Straza until I feel like I had more damage in hand, because it's too risky to go for the 15 damage that you have in hand right now, and obviously it doesn't make any much difference at this point in time either.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Greensheep kind of concedes if he sees more armor come out of Mysterious. It's similar to playing this matchup against a Control Warrior that just keeps armoring up. Those Feral Rages really do make the difference. But there is, especially because we did see the Roaring Torches in this deck, I mean, there is a lot of damage there, and with the Kobold, why not? I mean, there is definitely damage you can do, especially if you can get that Alex Straza down and there's not much to kind of combat it, and you can use that 8 damage from the minion, then that's going to make a big impact.
Well, he could technically clear this Doomsayer off board.
I think you take Bite just for the extra armor as well, right? You're playing Freeze Mage.
Yeah, especially if you're going to use it on the Doomsayer. It's not like you take any damage from using the attack from your hero, so I think there's no real disadvantage to taking Bite right there, if that is your goal with it at least. But I'm actually going to be playing Malagos so he can Moonfire down the Doomsayer. It also gets him another card draw on the go.
And also, it begs the question of, you've got to deal with my Malagos, because what does a Freeze Mage have, really, to deal with 12 mana minion? You usually just freeze and you stall.
You almost feel like you need to play Ice Block this turn as Greensheep, right? Double Frostbolt comes through.
Certainly nice for him, and we'll get the full 3 draws out of his Acolyte. Frost Nova as well comes through, so that's another way for him to stall this game out, and it gives him an opportunity to play his ice blocking combination with other spells. But now he's starting to look at a position where he has a lot of burst damage in his hand. However, there's still that 8 armor available for Mysterious, and there's still a lot of damage on board right now.
He's got 26 damage in hand, but that's it. He's
And not only has he got... well, the thing is, Mysterious has got the damage as well. Like, that swipe is going to be absolutely devastating with Malygos. That's a 9 damage swipe. And then you've also got Gadgetzan on board, so you're going to be drawing your Moonfires, you're going to be finding those Living Roots, and you're just going to be really threatening this Freeze Mage. There's another Living Roots as well, so... You can start to chunk down at this Freeze Mage, and you know you have that extra armor too.
You can basically flood the board now because all Freeze and all Doomsayers have gone. There's only one potential Flame Strike in hand, and that's not going to clear your entire board. And are you even worried about Flame Strike? I mean, you probably don't flood the board with everything, but you can definitely commit more minions. I actually wouldn't be averse to just seeing Fandral come down, Feral Rage to get value out of that.
And Living Roots as well, get value out of that, put extra on board.
Bite as well, just throw the Bite down. Do 8 damage with your face.
Actually, Feral Rage and Bite. And you can, yeah. Either of those I think are fine. Just generating that extra armor.
Yeah, and armor's obviously going to live through the Alexstrasza burn. And Greensheep's got to start thinking about where he's going to generate more damage from. He's got the Forgotten Torch. Is this the time where he just says, maybe it's time to Alexstrasza?
Yep, your Alexstrasza here, and you're putting him to what? 28?
28, yeah.
28.
And then there's yet another 8 armor from Mysterious, plus his hero power.
Plus a healing touch.
Plus a healing touch as well.
I think if that comes through from Mysterious, then you just end up... You probably know you can't win from that point forward.
Especially considering Malygos is on board and you can just deal with his Alexstrasza so easily as well.
For sure.
So I think this is just kind of going through the motions now. I think Mysterious is almost guaranteed this victory. I'm trying to think of the 1% that Greensheep wins this game.
I don't think there is a 1%.
There's always a 1%. There's always a way.
The way I saw a potential win route for Greensheep this game was trying to go for the true one-shot kill type 30-0 that you can do with Freeze Mage with the Forgotten Torches and stuff, but that really relies on you building as much of your hand as possible and then using Thanos right at the end. Or, you know, Thanosing the key components, like getting Thanos on Frostbolts and Ice Lances gives you a huge benefit when going towards the one-turn kill. That was my way that I thought he might be playing this, but I think playing it in a traditional freeze sense has just meant that he just hasn't had the damage to do so.
Yeah, and that will be the ice block removed now. So this is looking like it's going to be a 2-1 now in favour of Greensheep, or it will be by the end of this turn. There's a fireball coming on through, but it's not enough at this stage to be dealing 37 damage to his opponent, which is the required amount. And for you guys at home that maybe you're new to Hearthstone, you've not seen Freeze Mage that much, this is a deck that fully relies on just holding on for as long as you can until you have a combo in hand that you can just one-shot your opponent. However, against these decks that can build up armor like this, you really, really start to struggle.
And for those of you at home who have forgotten about Freeze Mage because we haven't seen it competitive play for so long,
I mean, this is why I mentioned it.
Like,
if anyone's kind of joined Hearthstone since the old gods, basically, we've not really seen Freeze Mage.
It's definitely been out a little bit in terms of popularity compared to other decks that have risen up. Freeze Mage was classically pretty good in the era of heavy mid-range decks because you were just able to freeze the board during the middle portion of the game, and then they often couldn't build enough armor or health to outpace you apart from Control Warrior.
I mean, to be fair, considering we have mid-range Shaman and we have mid-range Hunter at the moment, not entirely surprised that people are trying it.
Sure, I mean, theoretically, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you're in these big, heavy mid-range decks, some of them are a little bit borderline aggro, you can freeze as much as you can. And if there was one matchup that, you know, you could have a winning shot at going up against this Hunter, especially an N'Zoth Hunter where you can freeze the board as much as possible, could give him a good opportunity.
And I think he may need to win it as well, because I believe Mysterious's last deck, he had his Warlock banned. Or did he have his Warrior banned?
No, he had his Warrior banned.
Okay, so his last deck is his Warlock, so...
The light
okay, so both of these remaining games for Greensheep are definitely winnable. If the last one was Warrior and it was something like a Fatigue Warrior, then that would have been quite the ugly situation. But all of the card draw is in the hand for Greensheep. He's got his loot hoarder, he's got both acolytes. He's now got 2 blizzards, so he has his stalling effect. A Doomsayer on top of this would be excellent.
Is Mysterious going to think about using Kill Command just to kill off this? Yeah, he is.
Not a second's hesitation on that one. He does not want Greensheep to be able to find the answers.
That's a lot of damage lost, though. You are going to see another Acolyte of Pain come through, but we know that there's Houndmaster in hand here for Mysterious, so it's going to be some fairly sad Acolytes at the end of the day.
Well,
Sad acolytes.
they, I think actually, generally speaking, when you consider what Acolytes of Pain are, they're going to be pretty happy about the whole situation.
Yeah, I guess you are right in that respect.
They exclaim with joy when they die.
Yeah, very true. I've never really thought about it that way.
Frost Nova as well, more
Happy
stalling effects
acolytes.
for Greensheep. And I think you were right, Keenan. Yeah, okay, he wanted to get rid of those acolytes, but that kill command is a lot of damage to face, and you do want to be generating all that damage.
One thing that I would like to raise as a point here is that I often like to hold on to Acolyte until turn 5, where I know I can guarantee at least 2 draws out of it. The issue is for Greensheep, what else did he have to play? I guess against Hunter you have to think about these things like Houndmaster. Turn 4 Houndmaster is a very common play that comes out from Hunters.
Now, a serious question is, I was going to say, do you even consider going with the Houndmaster once again onto the Kindly Grandmother? But a Leok here is pretty huge, and
You have to freeze next turn. Frost Nova's gonna have to come out.
praying for Doomsayer, but doesn't actually find it. Blizzard's still a turn away, so Frost Nova is the only answer.
Frost Nova into Loot Hoarder is fine. Start to cycle. You've got 2 more turns of Stall with Blizzard after this, and those turns of Stall will actually allow you to kill the board as it is, including the offspring of the Kindly Grandmother.
Eagle Hornbow is generating more damage though.
Yeah, and it's already put him down to half health, so early good start here for Mysterious, and Greensheep not able to contest fully on board. He would have loved to have Forgotten Torches in the opening hand to deal with some of these minions, but alas, not the case.
Yeah, Greensheep could really do with drawing an ice block, or at least an ice barrier, because Mysterious is in a relatively good position.
Absolutely, he's going to weave in hero powers as much as possible.
Yep.
That's very, very important in this matchup. Ice barrier comes out, but he's going to have to Blizzard, so he's going to have to hold on to that for the moment. No. Yeah, you can.
Well,
do it that
I mean,
way.
you can trade first just to see what comes out from the loot hoarder.
That's probably the better play. I was about to say, don't do that, but remember, you can do it either way, to be honest.
There goes the Blizzard as well. So, managing to stay in this game, that's safe to say. Eaglehorn Bow here, I wouldn't be averse to after the hero power, and
Just
then you
hit,
can drop the huge
yeah.
toad as well.
Just go face.
SM Orc indeed. Huge Toad comes down, I suppose not really expecting a second Blizzard in a row, but he is going to be
But I mean,
a little bit disappointed on this one.
Blizzard doesn't even seem great.
if he Blizzards now, the Infested Wolf still drops 2/1/1s. I don't think they get frozen unless
They do, yeah.
it's all changed. Has it? Do they get? I don't know. There's some weird kind of situations with tokens where they don't get frozen.
There is a weird death rattle mechanic. It's the same as if it's the same that you don't actually take damage when you have a divine shield, but you still get frozen.
Possessed Villager, if that dies, the 1/1 that spawns does get frozen.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
assume it's the same for the wolf, but I can't say I know each and every interaction.
I would, yeah. Dropping
Exactly.
Doomsayer at the end here is great because it forces him to make a choice. But I would just pop. Or think about popping Ice Block. You could think it's Ice Block, right? So you just go straight for the pop.
Yeah.
But he wins, right?
Does he? Let's have a look. 4, 8,
7.
10.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, GG,
Yeah,
boys.
GG.
I mean, it's whether
It depends whether he actually goes
whether
for
he
that.
thinks this is an ice block or an ice barrier. But Greensheep's playing it, just probably saying, "Look,
And you
okay,
just
it's
check
ice
face,
block."
right? You have enough damage to take it out regardless. You just check face.
Definitely.
Looks like he's taking his time deciding how he wants to go about this turn, which Death Rattle he actually wants to buff up, and it looks like the Huge Toad will be the decision. And Greensheep, you can see on his face, his bluff has been called. Ice Barrier will not psych out Mysterious, and that means with the hero power on top of everything else, doesn't have lethal available for himself. So we'll be able to finish off this game, and that means we're going to the full series here. 2-2 is the scoreline between these two players. Greensheep struggling to get a win on the board with this Frost Mage.
Yeah,
Freeze Mage.
this can happen in this particular matchup. If the Hunter just gets a rolling start, then you just kill, because you have the Hunter hero power. It's really good at chunking him down. What you really need as the Freeze Mage there is either to have very early freeze using Frost Novas early, or you just need things like Forgotten Torches to try and clear off the board. Loot Hoarders earlier on would have been great to try and trade up as well. I guess Greensheep was throwing down the Acolyte knowing they would soak damage as much as possible.
Now, I remember last season a similar matchup when we had Freeze Mage versus Warlock, and it may be a Reno Lock from Mysterious, and I remember other casters were saying, well, I don't think Reno Lock wins here because even if you heal up, there's just enough damage. But then there was the, I've forgotten the name of the card, the one where you can bring Reno back. It's the Panda. I've forgotten his name.
Oh, yes.
Youthful Brewmaster.
That's the one. I mean, if you've got Youthful Brewmaster, which sometimes Mysterious did bring, and this is
definitely
the
Reno
Reno
Lock,
Lock.
yeah.
So if he has the Youthful Brewmaster plus Reno, there is a good chance that he wins this. This is a... I'd say that if you didn't have the Youthful Brewmaster, then yeah, Freeze Mage probably wins this.
Yeah, but if you can curve out like crazy on Reno and just act like a hard-hitting, curving Warlock, but obviously, generally as Reno, you're going to want to start to tap, but do you see Mysterious tap here? Does Mysterious want to bother tapping? I guess it depends whether you think you'll draw Reno before they end up drawing enough damage to take you down. And look at the damage already sitting in Greensheep's hand. It's not like it's an awful position for him to be in.
No, it would be key for Mysterious to draw that
Yeah.
Reno Jackson, but does have Spellbreaker as well, so he can be silencing a Doomsayer later, which might prove critical.
Could just coin silence the Acolyte of Pain if you absolutely want to. I mean, denying card draw could be the biggest win condition for him here. You could also just drop the M-Gang boss. Those are two plays that I'd personally think about, or even coining out Sen'jin Shieldbearer, but then obviously he's not going to be trading into you.
So what Greensheep has to do is, he's got to read this and say, at the point where he knows it's a Reno Lock, he has to say, I need to make sure that, to try and force him to use his Reno Jackson before I use my Alexstrasza. I think that's what's extremely important here. That's why you want to get as much damage in to his face. You want to use those pings where you can.
Or you just think about the true one-turn kill combo that you can do with the Freeze Mage these days. With the Emperor Theresian, you can actually burn them down from 30 or thereabouts. So, you know, that is always an option to consider here for Greensheep.
Well, card draw aplenty is available right now for Greensheep. He's got the 2 Loot Hoarders as well as a Novice Engineer and the Acolyte of Pain on board. Doesn't actually trade in with the Acolyte, waiting for next turn, hoping that survives, and then he can ping it as well and get the full 3 cards out of it.
Thinking about coining Sylvanas here. I think is his reasoning. Could also think about coining Emperor Theresian, which will have a massive impact in what he's got on hand as well.
I was going to say, I prefer Emperor here to Sylvanas. There's nothing major that you can steal, and when you know that there's an Alexstrasza in the deck, you probably want to save it maybe for a trade later on.
And so we also see the Faceless in the Hand of Mysterious,
Sure.
so I wonder if there's a Leroy in the deck as well?
I'm definitely
with the power
I'm definitely
overwhelming.
thinking this is with the power overwhelming, this is looking like some sort of one-turn kill combo. Reno Lock is certainly possible.
So Mysterious's thinking is, let's just try and generate as much threat on the board now against this Freeze Mage, and both these guys are going to be trying to get that kind of one-turn kill condition. Obviously, Freeze Mage does have a little bit of an advantage having that Ice Barrier and the Ice Block, but we know there's probably going to be a Reno Jackson as well. Well, there's definitely going to be a Reno Jackson.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no problem about
It's
it.
pretty likely at this stage, I think, yeah. But I'm curious to see how Greensheep plays these next few turns. There's
Hello, Putty Cat.
Mysterious's kitty cat walking across his laptop there. But yeah, I think Greensheep has to play this very carefully in terms of what resources he actually expends in dealing with what's on the board.
Throws the cat out of the way. Stop distracting.
Trying to play cards.
This is actually quite good from Greensheep because he's just managed to weave in an extra 2 damage to face here, which could be, like you said, it can be important in this matchup. If you can get enough damage down before Reno comes through and you could just surprise one-turn kill combo, which we know is possible. Jiraxis, but no Reno yet, so he's starting to really struggle on that life total.
Yeah, no, it's not the end of the world for him just yet.
No, for sure. No, he's got
But-
loads of answers for things.
He's certainly... I mean, right now, the biggest struggle for Mysterious is just lack of threats. He doesn't have anything to really pressure Greensheep, and against a Freeze Mage, that's actually a dangerous scenario to entertain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Greensheep will be thinking here, how can I get 2 Frostbolts, 2 Ice Lances, an Emperor Therissian, and maybe some torches into hand as well.
Also
Mysterious versus the cat.
I wish this
continues.
cat would stop treading on my laptop while I'm trying to figure out a really difficult turn, actually. And I think what he's thinking about, he is thinking about those threats. He's thinking, should I be playing this Spellbreaker just so I can get more on the board? In the end, I think he just passes, yeah.
Just wants to get some more value out of Emperor. This is an easy ping trade here for Greensheep if he wants it, and start to cycle a little bit more. With Blood Mage Thanos in hand, you're starting to see some of those pieces come together for this combo. And Frost Nova's pretty nice too.
Even going to use the Forgotten Touch there to finish off the Emperor. And that means as well... Oh, actually playing Thanos, interestingly. So just getting more and more card draw on the board, valuing the card draw over the spell power.
Yeah, he wants to just basically get to double Frostbolt, double Ice Lance, and get to those torches as quickly as possible as well. And maybe find Emperors down.
I also
evolve Kobold as well.
I really feel like he's just trying to encourage a Reno to come out before the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
He's just putting threats on board. And he's like, look, I'm just going to keep jamming this damage into face. If you've got Reno Jackson, feel free to play it, because I'm just going to counteract it with Alexstrasza.
Sure.
You have to remember as well how important this game is for Greensheep, right? He's down at the bottom of the scoreboard. He's got to find his... Oh, sorry, bottom half of the scoreboard at least. He's got to find his way back into this tournament. Mysterious, he's sitting pretty 3-0 right now across the group stage. But Greensheep, to be honest, this week is his ticket back toward finals, right? He'll be 2-2 once again.
There's the
He'll be in
Leroy.
a much better situation. As you rightly say, though, Leroy in hand for Mysterious. He's getting closer to that one-turn kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20 damage that you can do from hand with Leroy, and he's actually worried that there is the damage in hand here with that spell power to burst him down from 21.
So Ice Barrier may come into play here for Greensheep if he is concerned. Yeah. If he is worried about any sort of wombo combo coming out of Mysterious.
I think you have to be. You have to be alert to that fact.
I mean, if Greensheep took any notice of last season, Mysterious pretty much played this exact deck during finals last season, and during the lead up to as well. It did have Youthful Brewmaster in it though, so whether he's still including that remains to be seen. But there's no Reno Jackson to throw back into your deck at the moment.
So do you... Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't have minded there, just continuing to throw some of this damage to face.
Oh, I thought he pinked his own face there.
That arrow looked very dangerously close to his face. I wish Hearthstone wouldn't do that to me sometimes. Still jamming the damage into face, just trying to encourage that Reno Jackson to come out.
So this is where we got confused last time. We thought he was running
Cthulhu,
but he's not. He's just running the fact that it's a 3 damage, deal 2 damage. And that's not awful, you know. So still no Reno though. That's an important issue, because Greensheep's sitting on 6, 9, 16 damage. Sitting on 16 damage from hand, right? Just correct my maths if I'm wrong.
Not even gonna try.
Yeah, I think it's 16 damage from hand. So you're actually 1 ping away from being close to lethal if you get both of those jammed into face next turn.
I wonder.
So you know, if at any point we see him get to a point where Jaraxxus is played, then he's just won.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the issues with the Reno lock. As we've said, you have this healing available, but it's limited in when and where you can use it in this specific matchup. Sylvanas actually going to come down, and I think that very much preemptive for this turn 9 from Greensheep. He knows Alexstrasza is an option.
How much
another
damage has he
Ice
got?
Lance,
He's
though.
one mana off, I believe. If I've done my maths correctly, I think he's 1 mana off lethal.
He's got 7.
He might be 2 mana off, actually. He doesn't have lethal anyway, but he is just going to use Frost Nova just to kind of stall it out, but there is a lot of damage available there for him.
If there is no healing from Mysterious next turn, he's won.
And also, with the Doomsayer on board, Mysterious basically has to answer for what's here and heal himself, but doesn't have any healing in hand. He's got a tap.
I'm pretty sure he's won next turn, right? If there's no healing coming out from Mysterious, because he's got 6, 9 plus 8. Yeah, that's enough damage. That is enough damage, kids.
So, I mean, I think you're right, Munchables. He might have to tap and look for Reno here. But then, if he does, Alexstrasza comes out, and this is what I mean. This Reno lock does typically lose to Freeze Mage. It was only that Youthful Brewmaster that kind of won this for Mysterious last season.
I think Mysterious has to be aware that he's kept a lot of cards in his hand for a large portion of the game. But does he make that risk? You know, you've got to make that choice between, do I tap to get the chance of Reno, or do I just try and play around and hope that he doesn't have 16 damage?
Well, looks like he's going to play around the hope he doesn't have 16 damage.
And, well, he'll find out that he does. He definitely has 16 damage
as well, just to add insult to injury. With the Frostbolt, the Ice Lancers, and whatever other spell he wants to finish things off with, that is going to be the game and the series going the way of Greensheep. So I can inform you guys that only one of us managed to get the correct prediction fully this time around. It is our wee ginger man himself. It is Daniel Gaskin.
Daniel Gaskin, but I'll give you like a semi-bump for both getting the same green sheet.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry, Munch.
First loss for Mysterious, but he's still sitting pretty at 3-1, but what's more important is that Greensheep is now 2-2, and he can now actually start looking towards finals, which I don't think there was really a point last season where he even thought I could probably make finals. He was pretty much down and out the whole season.
Sure,
so now he's in a good position. He can be a little bit more confident about himself. And I like the deck choices. They were very bold decisions.
I also like the fact that Freeze Mage was brought, because, like you said, there is an element where it's starting to come into more effect against the Shaman deck. It has become useful. And you make that choice maybe thinking that, well, I know Mysterious loves his Reno lock, and I know that I could probably pick up a win here if I get queued up into that particular matchup. So you never bring to target one deck in Conquest, because obviously unless you think everything that you've brought is good against Reno lock specifically. But it was a good choice.
I mean, but that's why Hello Leroy and Ball Control have been doing so well, is because they can predict their opponents. They do their research, and it feels like Greensheep's finally getting to that point now where he's like, okay, I need to be looking back at these VODs. I need to kind of decide what these guys are
I realised I just said you don't bring to target one deck in Conquest, but actually you do. All the time you can bring an entire lineup to target one deck if you know that that's the kind of deck you're going to be playing. But yeah, against Arena Lock, obviously we knew that in most cases it's